Welcome. Today we're going to be discussing Thrusting Wedge and some of the more important principles, concepts, rules, theories, and strategies of the technique. So let's start out with the strategy. The strategy is pretty simple. We're going to be using a defensive maneuver simultaneous with our offensive maneuver, controlling our opponent and counter. The interesting thing to notice is that I didn't say what they're doing, and that's purposeful because in this case, it doesn't really matter what they're doing as long as we're dealing with their arms and not their legs. So what do I mean by that? In the ideal phase, this is an attempted two-hand push. It could also be an attempted choke. It could be a single, right or left. It doesn't change the technique. So let's get into how this strategy actually works and break that down a little further. So as they're coming in, we're going to be doing purposeful aggression, meaning we're going to forget about their arms and just attack the attacker. We're doing that through our fingers. I want to create a claw and rake their face. So now let's talk about the defensive part of the maneuver. If you notice, what I'm doing with my arms is I'm creating a wedge using ratcheting, using the fingertips as a pivot point so I can push my elbows out. But keep in mind that we have a couple rules that come into play. In order to beat it, meet it. So as they're coming in, I don't want to wait for them to get here. I want to go towards them. The farther I can get my hands out, the greater the angle of deflection I'm going to create. And this is going to bring in the opposing forces. So as they're coming in, I'm trying to create that opposing forces, creating that wedge. And again, I'm attacking all simultaneous. So the interesting thing to keep in mind here is our strategy. We wanted to get the upper hand and take advantage of our opponent. Well, if you look at this position, we physically do not have the upper hand, but we do strategically and conceptually. We've already hurt them and we've exposed all of their vital targets. Even though their hands are physically above ours, there's really nothing they can hit up to. So this is going to bring in our next concept, or our rule. Don't leave any loose extremities out. So what does that mean? That we don't want just to leave his arms there. If I started to try to counter, he's going to start countering or blocking. So we want to eliminate that. We want to control their limbs. So what are we going to do? We're going to do it two different ways. Our left hand is going to be doing it through a grab, where I'm physically grabbing their arm and putting it where I want. My right hand is going to be using friction to control their arm and put it where I want. So the interesting thing to notice is what I did. Think of this like a pinning check, where I'm trying to pin their arm against their leg with my hand. I do not want to start an orbit that's going to reorbit back to hit us. So what do I mean by that? I do not want the hand to go around through the back or through the front. I want it to stay on the side. But this is going to bring in two other concepts: continuity of motion and gauging. The reason we're grabbing with our left is because I want to gauge how close my opponent's going to be to me so I can hit him with the elbow. Continuity of motion, meaning that we want to continue the motion. So remember what we did this. Their hands were above us. Now we put their hands below us. So now they don't have a chance of blocking this elbow. So we are at a strategic advantage where we can now counter safely. So the idea here is that I don't want coffee break and allow him to use his head-to-head buttons. So the idea is I continue the motion right into the elbow. So now let's talk about some of the concepts that are coming in with the final maneuver. We're contouring up their body, taking advantage of the open-ended triangle for the elbow, and then using reverse motion, we're going to be executing the heel pump claw. In this case, it's sophisticated basic. Now keep in mind, a way to think about the elbow and the claw is that we're doing the opposite of what we did at the beginning. So what do I mean by that? In the beginning, we did ratcheting to two hands on a horizontal using the long range to a short range. We're now doing the vertical version of that, single hand, by using only the right, going from elbow to hand. But keep in mind that this is ratchet-like and not a true ratchet because the elbow actually moves so that I can gauge the distance for the hand. So once we do the elbow and the claw, let's talk about the sophistication. I don't want to do a heel pump and I don't want to do a claw. I want to do both simultaneous. So this is one maneuver with multiple effects where I'm doing the heel pump and the claw all in one move. And then this brings us into our last concept, being left in the middle of a fight. Like a lot of our techniques, if you notice where we're left, we are still in the middle of a fight. This is for you to decide whether you want to leave or whether you would like to continue using the formulation equation. So in this case, we're going to be leaving like we normally do. And now that we talked about the concepts, principles, rules, theories, and strategies of the technique, let's demonstrate it fairly slow so you can see it being executed. We hope this video helps you understand the American Kenpo system a little bit better. Thank you very much.